Imagine this. You're home alone in the middle of the night when you hear a knock on your door. You rush to check the peephole, only to find no one there. But that's not where the story ends. What happens next will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about the world around you. This is the story of the uninvited guest. And trust me, you won't believe what happened. The night had started like any other. The Redditor, let's call him Alex, was home alone, enjoying a quiet evening. It was late, around midnight, and the only sounds were the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the house settling. That's when the first knock came. A single knock at the door. Alex, thinking it might be a delivery or someone with the wrong address, got up to check. But when they peered through the peephole, there was no one outside. Puzzled but not overly concerned, Alex went back to what they were doing. But just as they were settling down again, another knock. Louder this time. This time, something felt different. The air was thick, and the hairs on the back of Alex's neck stood up. They slowly approached the door, heart racing, but once again, no one was there. But what happened next? That's when things took a turn. Alex's phone began to ring, and the number on the screen was their own. Alex hesitated, staring at the number, unsure if it was some kind of glitch or prank. But when they answered, there was nothing but heavy breathing on the other end. No words, no sounds, just a feeling that something or someone was lurking too close. Alex, now more confused and frightened than ever, tried to brush it off. But that phone call, it felt real. Too real. The sound of someone breathing, but no one on the other end. It was enough to make anyone's heart race. Trying to make sense of it, Alex did what anyone would do. They called the police, hoping to find some explanation. Maybe someone was playing a prank, or perhaps it was just some kind of technological glitch. But when the police arrived, they found nothing. No one was at the door, and there was no sign of anything unusual around the house. No footprints, no evidence of anyone having been there. And yet, the knocks had been real. The phone call had been real. The question remained, who or what was trying to make contact with Alex? Was this just a bizarre coincidence, or was something far more sinister at play? As if that weren't enough, the unsettling events didn't stop there. It was only the beginning of a terrifying experience that would haunt Alex long after that night. You see, the next night, the knocks came again, but this time, Alex was ready. They stood by the door, listening carefully, heart pounding, waiting to see if whatever was out there would return. The next night, Alex wasn't sure if they should even open the door, but the knocks were too real to ignore. This time, the air felt heavier, colder. The silence was oppressive, as if something was waiting just beyond the threshold. They waited and waited, but no one came, just like before. And yet, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't truly alone. So, Alex did something they'd never done before. They picked up the phone and called their own number again, just to see if anything would happen. But this time, there was no strange breathing, only silence on the other end. And that was when they realized the phone call had come from inside the house. Panic set in. Alex frantically searched every room, every closet, and every corner of the house. But no one was there. No sign of any intruder. Yet, somehow, it felt as though something or someone was watching them. But the most terrifying part? The next day, when Alex checked their phone's call history, the number that had called them was gone. It had never happened. No trace, no record, just nothing. They never figured out who or what was behind it. But Alex would never forget that night. The knocking, the phone call from their own number, and the chilling realization that sometimes the most terrifying things aren't the ones we can see, but the ones that linger just out of sight. So, next time you're home alone and you hear a knock at the door, ask yourself, who's really on the other side? Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Was it a prank, a glitch, or was it something much darker, something beyond explanation? This is one of those stories where we may never have all the answers. Maybe it was just a strange coincidence, but the fact that it happened at all makes you wonder. The strange knocks, the phone call from your own number, the feeling that something was out there, watching, waiting. It's enough to send a chill down anyone's spine. But I want to know, what do you think? Was Alex truly alone that night? Or was something or someone lurking just out of sight? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever experienced something like this? Or do you think it's all just a coincidence? Either way, if you found this story chilling, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications so you don't miss out on more creepy tales from the dark corners of the internet. Until next time, remember, sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that don't have an answer. Stay safe and always lock your doors. Story number 2. College is supposed to be the start of a new adventure, a fresh beginning. But for one student, moving into a new dorm room marked the beginning of a nightmare they would never forget. This is the story of the haunted dorm room. It all started when Sarah, a new college student, moved into her dorm. At first, the room felt ordinary, small, a little old, but comfortable. She unpacked her things, hung up some posters, and quickly made it feel like home. But then, the strange things began. At night, the lights would flicker, even though the wiring in the building was supposedly fine. Sarah brushed it off as an electrical issue, but soon she noticed something else. Her belongings started moving. A book she swore she left on her desk would end up on her bed. Her phone charger, always plugged in at night, would be on the floor in the morning. Little things, nothing too obvious, but enough to make her feel uneasy. And then there were the footsteps. At first, Sarah thought it was noise from her neighbors. But these steps weren't coming from the hallway or the room next door. They were coming from inside her dorm. One night, Sarah woke up with a strange feeling, an intense chill in the room. Her breath fogged in the air, even though the heater was on full blast. She opened her eyes and froze. There, standing at the foot of her bed, was a shadowy figure. It didn't move. It didn't make a sound. It just stood there, watching. Paralyzed with fear, Sarah shut her eyes, hoping it was just a nightmare. When she finally worked up the courage to look again, the figure was gone, but the cold, heavy feeling in the room remained. The next day, Sarah told her dorm mates about what happened. That's when they dropped the bombshell. Her dorm room had a history. Years earlier, a student living in that same room had mysteriously disappeared. Some said it was depression. Others whispered about foul play, but no one knew the full story. Unable to handle the strange occurrences, Sarah requested a room transfer and moved out as soon as she could. After leaving, the event stopped, and Sarah never experienced anything like it again. But what about the room? What about the shadowy figure that stood at her bed? Was it connected to the missing student? Or was the room cursed by something far more sinister? Sarah never found out. So, the next time you move into a new space, take a moment to ask about its history, because sometimes the past isn't as far away as you think.